All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for everyone attending in person and also on your screens. Thanks for being here. I'll just start with the roll call and some and go through some of the rules of procedure. Is the roll call? Do we have to list everyone here or?
The roll's been taken.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So the Environmental Sustainability and Policy Advisory Committee is now called to order. To begin, we'll go over some rules of procedure. This meeting is held in a hybrid format in accordance with the electronic participation policy for virtual meetings. The full corporate policy 050 regarding electronic and virtual meetings is available online to review. Staff and delegates are reminded to keep their video and microphones off until requested by the chair or members of committee. All cameras for committee members shall remain on to ensure quorum. Members of the committee shall indicate they wish to speak by physically raising their hand. Members who are present in person will be given opportunity to speak first, followed by virtual participants. All members of the committee will vote by a physical show of hands. Please leave your hand raised until the chair has determined the results of the vote. In the event of a connection or service interruption occurs that affects quorum, we may recess the meeting for up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting will be adjourned. All rules for delegations under the city's procedural bylaw continue to apply. We'll be going to the first agenda item then, declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest for any of the items listed on today's agenda? I'm seeing none. All right, and then we'll start with presentations and delegations. I believe we wanted to do some introductions. If this is an appropriate time, I'm happy to do that. Gagan, did you want to start?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Hello, good evening, members. Thank you for having us. I think I met most of you in the February meeting, but if I haven't, my name is Gagan Batra, the Manager of Business Support and Sustainability. I was at the last meeting, and going forward, I'll be attending these meetings. And I have with me Laura Almeida, who is new to this Business Support and Sustainability office. She is the Policy and Program Support Analyst. Laura, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Laura Almeida, and as Gagan said, I'm new to the Public Works Commission, but I'm very happy to be here, and I'll be supporting Gagan and the rest of the Public Works team on matters related to kind of policy analysis and grants and things like that.
Yeah, and I wanted to take the time to introduce Laura because, as you know, we did have a vacancy in the Climate Change Officer position, who is normally the liaison for this committee, and while we're in the hiring process for that, Laura's been filling in to help support with some of the climate change initiatives. So thank you, Laura.
Welcome to both of you. Did we want to do other introductions for the team? Maybe we can just on my screen. Well, let's do the individuals that are in person first, according to the rules. So if you want to start then.
My name is Michael Sullivan. I've been in the environmental and sustainability and renewables industry for the last 10 years. And I just basically looking to take what I've gained and learned and implement it to our city to make it a better place for us all to be.
All right, welcome. Alicia?
Hi, I'm Alicia. I am the new vice chair and haven't been on the committee that long, but excited to see things moving forward.
All right, thank you. Mark?
Hi, Mark Steinecker. I've been on the committee since I think February 2016, and just really enjoy working with the people here, even though they've rotated a fair bit over the past few years.
Oh, sorry, Andy?
Hi, I'm Andy Streisfeld. I'm an entrepreneur and an environmentalist. My specialty is in sustainability and recycling. I have two firms here in Brantford, and we recycle PPEs. So I'm a specialist in in sustainability and circular economy, and I'm glad to be part of this committee.
All right, welcome. And and I see Carly is on as well now. Carly, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, through the chair, I just mention.
I feel like I haven't been on Zoom for a long time. I'm Carly. Mark, how did I start? Did I join SPAC in 2017 or 18? I can't remember, but I've been around for since we created the green team. So I haven't been present since about February. So I think I'm just a member joining on here. And I started with Ken Burns, the green team. So it's a subcommittee from SPAC where we focus on waste diversion in the community. So it's something I've been passionate about more as a grassroots thing for the last, I believe, 4 or 5 years. So yeah, thank you.
That's great. Welcome as well. I think Carly, probably the clerk will mention that we need to keep our videos on. So if that's a possibility.
Just to count towards quorum, you will need to have your
just get
camera
down.
Okay. I didn't catch your answer there, but
Yeah, sorry, I was just running in from in the house, so I'll just have it. I'm just gonna sit down. I'll turn my camera on. Thanks.
sure, no problem. All right. Are we able to continue then? I believe we can go. Yeah. So the items for consideration this evening, we have one item, and I'll now call on Gagan Batra to provide a brief overview of the item. And can I have I believe we need to do a mover and seconder, clerk?
Yes, we'll place the item on the floor and then Gagan can go through her overview.
Perfect.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll just provide a brief update of what you see before you in this report, and then we'll leave some time at the end. And I'll be happy to take any comments, questions, feedback that you all have. So the purpose of this report is really to provide an update on the Community Climate Change Action Plan and how it's been progressing. As you know, when the city declared a climate emergency, we made a commitment to reduce community emissions as well as corporate emissions. The Corporate Climate Change Action Plan was approved and it's well underway with council. The next step was to create this community plan that's oriented more towards the community emissions and what residents, businesses, and members at large can do within Brantford to reduce their emissions and get us to that net zero goal by 2050. So I'll just talk a little bit about the process and where we're at right now, and then I'll go through some of the actions that are going to be identified in the plan. So it's been under development for quite a while, since I think 2020 is when we began public engagement through surveys, action tables for climate change, where we met with various stakeholders to provide input and feedback into what action items should be included in this plan going forward. We had quite a bit of participation in the climate action tables and the Let's Talk Brantford campaigns and surveys that we've done. And from all of that engagement that we've done, we've taken everything pretty much and condensed it into a list of actions and items and targets that were identified by these various stakeholders. The 5 different actions categories are related to transportation. So some of those actions that were indicated were related to public transit. If you guys look at section 5.3, the first one was public transit, and the main priority that was identified in there was to increase transit ridership. So a way that we can measure that is if there's a higher percentage of people using public transit versus single vehicle trips. And also we can track that based on the number of passes that are sold and the number of transit riders annually and monthly, which is something that our city transit folks can help us to track to figure out if we're reaching that goal or not. And then the second action as it related to transportation was active transportation. And a main priority that came out of that was increasing cycling as a form of transportation to reduce GHGs. Another one was to increase walking as a form of transportation, and to the right in the metrics column, you can see the metrics that we've associated with that goal as well. And lastly, in the transportation, we talked about, or we heard that electric vehicles should be prioritized in the community as a way to reduce emissions. So one of the action items for that is to purchase public EV charging stations so that people are able to charge their vehicles and there's more ability for this infrastructure to be available for folks. The second main category for actions was related to buildings. And this looked at both residential, commercial, industrial, business, all different types of buildings. So the first one in the residential category is reducing energy consumption in private homes. And the second is to implement a green building standard for new homes. Now, I just want to highlight that the green building standard is something that was identified several different occasions in these different meetings that were held. So it was shown that that was a pretty big priority for the community. And in the commercial industrial area, it was identified that we should have a sustainable business recognition program. And at these meetings that we had, the Chamber of Commerce was present there, and that was something that they were very interested in, having kind of an award for businesses who do take green action to reduce their emissions, and that could help us to achieve our goals sooner. And lastly, in the institutional and school board field, we did have active transportation planning for schools identified as a way to reduce GHGs, and further energy conservation programs within the schools. In the waste category, so I'm really glad actually Carly mentioned the diversion, because we did just approve in the 2022 capital budget a green bin program. And we are expecting that to be rolled out, I believe, at the end of 2023, if not early 2024. So it's well underway, finally. And that's actually one of the big priority items. Every single survey, people have said that the main way that they would reduce their GHGs and their, their impact on climate change is to organics, to divert based on organics. So that was the #1 priority in this section. And also promoting things like reducing, reusing, recycling, circular economy. And then in terms of water and reducing waste for water, increasing education on reduced water consumption and why it's important to conserve water is one, and also advanced water metering, which has been approved by council as well and is moving forward. So that's when your homes can be fitted with advanced water metering, so it can detect leaks in the water, so that just reduces some of that waste. Another category was offsets. So these offsets are related to how do we take away or sequester carbon from the atmosphere when GHGs are unavoidable. So the main one that was identified was tree planting. And I know there are a ton of initiatives already for tree planting, community tree plantings and those types of things, but one of the main priorities that was identified is to discourage private tree cutting. So through implementation of a bylaw, for example, where we're asking people to obtain permits before they cut any trees on their private property. And then the annual residential tree giveaways, which we started last year and was very successful, just to help us increase our canopy, and also increasing the number of community tree planting events. The last one in that category was natural assets. So protecting the natural assets in different ways that we currently already have, and to develop a climate change adaptation plan to help to create a more resilient community. And the importance of that was really highlighted this past weekend with the storm that was pretty severe. And, we're expecting these types of events to continue occurring and more frequently as climate change gets worse throughout the community. The last, I believe, category was education and outreach. So the first topic that came up was resources. So I know education outreach is a big thing for climate change, talking to the community, letting them know why climate change is important, getting that messaging across. And one way to really drive that point home is to provide free resources and materials to the community to reflect climate change and why it's important. So that was one of the things that was identified as a priority. And another one is to develop a network that can help to deliver this key messaging. So something similar to SPAC maybe, but more, maybe not a committee, but a group of different stakeholders coming together to sit around the table and really spread that messaging around. Green Teams is a really good example actually for that. And then lastly, engaging with the community regularly on climate change, just making sure we're really using social media, we're using our voice to get the messaging across and make sure people are aware of the severity of climate change. So that's in a nutshell the various actions and priorities that were identified in the working sessions. As I said, we're still in development of this final plan. We very much are looking for feedback. I can tell you that right now the plan is going to be in line with the corporate emissions. We're going to look at the 2030, 2040, 2050 targets. But the main difference between the corporate plan that's already been approved and this one is that the corporate one is really geared towards actions that the city can take, whereas this one, we want the community to take ownership of it and promote how they can work together to reduce their emissions. The next steps, just really quickly, is that we're going to finalize this report once we receive feedback from SPAC. We'll take that and put that into the final report that's going to be presented. We do have a few engagement sessions planned, which I can go into more detail, but we are going to do some public information center style drop-in sessions where people can come in June, at the end of June, to see pretty much what you've seen tonight, the different actions that are identified, and give us feedback about what's a priority to the community, what they would like to see if we missed anything, if they want to add things. So it's really a final opportunity for the residents to have input into this plan. And then we're going to be taking it to committee of the whole once the plan is finalized. So that's the plan. And right now we're looking to July to take this plan. And if that's not able to happen, then we'll have to take it in September, but we're really aiming for July right now. And that's it. Sorry, that was a lot of information very fast. I'm happy to take questions, comments, feedback. As I said, it's really helpful to be able to input that into the final report. So happy to take anything.
All right, thank you very much. So next, do we need to still place this on the floor? Mover and seconder?
Yeah, so we'll need a mover and a seconder to start, and then we can go into discussion.
Sure.
I had a question.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we need to move and second it first, and then we can open it up for debate.
I'll move it.
Okay, Mark.
I'll second it.
Okay, perfect. All right. So can we open it up for discussion then? Mark, did you want to start?
Yeah, you're saying about bike lanes, Gagan. Are there plans for dedicated bike lanes? The reason I ask that is I walk enough around and drive enough around Brantford that I look at how drivers treat pedestrians and cyclists, and there's no way I'm riding my bicycle in Brantford. It's just too dangerous. My life isn't worth taking that. So that's not a criticism. It's a setup for the question. Like I noticed along Gray Street where I live, there are painted lines for bike lanes, one on each side. The one going westbound though is set up to get people doored so that people, open their car door and the cyclist going by gets hit. If the two lanes were moved together and put on one side, opposite from where the parking is, and those bendy pole things like they do in Hamilton, I know I would consider cycling, but has that been considered at all? That kind of dedicated, physically separated bike lanes so that it's actually not just a legal fiction that there are bike lanes there?
Yeah, through the chair, that's something that the city is definitely looking at, Mark. Thanks for the question. We have a traffic services department that leads up the active transportation portfolio, and I know they have several projects that were underway. I'm not sure if any dedicated lanes are proposed currently, but I know I'm also managing a downtown streetscaping plan, which is proposing dedicated cycle lanes that are completely separated from the roadway and parking and bollards, as you're saying. Pretty much exactly what you just said on the downtown street. So that is being looked at. And in 2022 capital budgets, council approved a active transportation master plan, which is going to look very critically at all of the active transportation infrastructure that we have currently and what we can have in the future. And that'll be a lot more of a coordinated approach. So that's underway, I think, currently already, and we should have a full plan that takes into account all of those things like safety. So it's something that's being looked at.
Marvy, thank you very much for that. It's great. Thank you.
Mike?
Two-part question. Is where you were mentioning that you wanted to increase the transit ridership. Are there plans or are they looking at changing the way we actually run our bus system? Because that is our biggest fallback right now. People don't want to go on a 1-hour tour of the city to get to where they're going.
Yeah, through the chair. That is something that we're looking at. I know it wasn't done this year, but I believe next year is when the project is going to be put into the capital budget. So if council approves us to undertake this study, that's going to be a full master plan for transit. It'll take a look at the route optimization and all of those things. So it is underway. It is going to be included.
The second part of my question is with the waste and diversion. Is the plan taking into place or into fact that the waste producers will be taking over liability for this starting next year, according to the Ontario government?
Through the chair, I'm not sure. Can you just clarify the question?
Well, basically, what's going to happen, because it's the field I'm in, residential street collection is not going to be on the onus of the city. It's going to be on the onus of the waste producers. So it's going to change the way recycling is currently done. And I'm thinking we might want to look at opportunities and I don't mean to be the guy that comes across as punitive, but sometimes we got to actually implement mandatory changes with set fines in order to get people on board.
Yeah.
Because being in the industry, I see a lot of recycling materials showing up at the landfill when all we got to do is give it a deterrent to stop them from doing it.
Yeah, through the chair, in 2022, early on this year, council approved a zero waste strategy. So it's a pretty much overall strategy for how we're managing solid waste. And it did have recommendations in there that once we implement the green bin program, we might look towards limiting the number of garbage bags you can set out, which will definitely help with the recycling. Well, the case is that it would help with people recycling and doing the organics more. So that was something that was looked at, and then doing bag tags, those types of things. All of that was included in the solid waste strategy. And our environmental services department is independently going to take a full audit and look at what can actually be done to achieve that 70% waste diversion goal by 2050. So that is being looked at, all of those measures that you mentioned. It's just outside of this climate action plan. They're going to have to kind of work together.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll do Andy and then Carly.
Actually, Carly first. She's been putting her hands up before.
Go ahead, Andy.
Thank you, Carly. To the chair, through the chair to my colleagues on the board and the clerk. Can we make a notation? Is it too late to add to the agenda in new business if Michael can explain this new policy? It seems this is the best kept policy secret that the government has put forward. I've been hearing rumblings about it because I'm in the diversion milieu, and everyone knows there's something coming, but nobody seems to know what it's about. But if Michael has some way to bring it up to speed, I would love to hear it in new business, because that could impact a lot of our projects.
So through the chair, there is not an opportunity to bring up new business. However, if Michael, as part of a speaking opportunity relating to this item, as long as he can bring it back to this item, if he would like to take an opportunity to provide a high-level overview of the topic, as long as the chair is permissible to that, I see no issue with having that conversation right now. Again, it wouldn't be added to the agenda. It would just be an overview now.
Okay. More of a clarification on this, because I think what we're trying to get at is some of these metrics, right? So if things are changing, we just want to be aware of it. So yeah, absolutely. If you want to take a few minutes to just explain that as you understand it, that'd be helpful.
Well, as a whole, what's transpiring, it's actually already started. The Ford government passed earlier last year that all the onus for municipal collections was going to go back on the waste producers themselves. It was going to start with the commercial sector, and then it was going to move towards the actual residential sector. So what's actually transpiring right now in St. Thomas and in Port Stanley is that the city is no longer collecting businesses' recycling. They're being forced to handle it themselves and being basically put onto the producers themselves. So it's a ball that's moving forward, and it's going to move into the residential world as well. Basically, in a nutshell, the government's going to be washing their hands of the entire program. That's it.
And if I'm understanding correctly, then there's no official direction to individual municipalities currently, but this is something on the radar, I guess, that we need to be aware of.
Yeah, in the next 12 months, it's going to hit.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for explaining that.
No problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, to the question to the chair, I don't know if it's a point of order or a point of information. Michael, can you just give just an example of a residential blue box that's going to be affected, like just something, so I have an understanding, everybody has an understanding, because it's the best kept secret that nobody knows about, and it's going to be a surprise when it comes out. And if you could just, based on what you heard residentially, one item that could affect a resident, if you don't mind.
Well, like I said, in a nutshell, it's not going to affect the residents per se, because they're still going to get collection. Just the services are not going to come through the city any longer. Services are actually going to come via a committee that's formed for the waste producers. So the Coca-Colas of the world and the Amazons of the world, they're going to have to come together and fund the recycling program. Basically, the government's not going to pay for it any longer.
Yeah, and I think, given that it is a bit of speculation at this point, I think it's something to be aware of. But at the end of the day, the purpose we're looking for is the diversion target. However it's picked up or managed, what we're trying to do is, take it, like see a reduction off of the baseline. So, but, I think it's really good to point out that things are changing and in flux. And I'll draw on staff, but I believe that they're watching that, and the plan will be created such that it's adaptable as these sorts of things change. Correct? Or
yeah, we're going to put in there, similarly to the corporate plan, that this one it's not final and it's subject to change absolutely as policy and legislation changes. We'll keep it an adaptable plan for sure. And our environmental services staff, they're the ones who manage the waste management portfolio. So they're definitely going to be looking out for any policy or legislation changes.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. Carly, did you still have a question?
Yeah,
Right,
thank
perfect.
you. This was a great presentation, so thank you for joining in. And I'm specifically, again, thinking about waste diversion. So I appreciate the waste category as well as the education category. And I can see how the government can take more accountability on their end for waste diversion and education. Like, for instance, I would love to see something related to any festivals or events that the city has, that they are the champion in promoting waste diversion. And that's also the education aspect of the green team, to find those volunteers to be at waste stations to provide that education. Because I think at the end of the day, as people change cities, waste diversion changes, and for us to be the champions to be able to keep everybody up to date as to what goes into what bin. And I think at like a municipal level, we can really champion that, if that's either under like an education aspect or the waste aspect. I see education programs, but I guess this is more of like a volunteer waste diversion at festivals or events specifically.
Yeah, through the chair, I think it can fit into either category really. For the waste, I think it would be related to creating promotional materials so people understand what goes in each bin. Especially once the green bin program is implemented, people are definitely going to have some education on that, since it's new to the community. So that's something, again, that our environmental services staff is looking at, and they are planning to do a pretty wide education campaign as part of that program and its rollout. But in terms of the education category, I think it can also apply to having green teams, like I said, a network of volunteers or organizations who want to come together to send out that messaging. So I think it could be in both. We'll just make it so that the wording is clear, and we can even use examples of green teams or waste diversion at events, and we can include that in the final plan.
I guess through the chair as well, that a follow-up with that is ensuring as well that there's audits, like again, having those numbers and making sure that the community knows. Like in 2019, we were able to divert 65% of the waste from the garbage, and saying that number to the community really makes them excited to reduce the waste as well. So yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have some comments as well, but I'm just making sure. I'm not seeing any others, so maybe I'll jump in. Thank you as well. I think the metrics look really good. I like that they're really actionable, and you can really see that the city would have some of that data already, so it's good to tap into. So I think that's a good starting point. On the active transportation side, just wondering how monitoring would be done for use of cycling lanes. I think that's something that we may want to, I don't know if you're collecting that data already.
Yeah, through the chair, I'm not too sure. I would have to double check with our traffic folks and get back to you, but I know in some places along our trail network, they do have trail counters where it's like an automated thing that goes and it counts people as they go along. So that gives us data about how much it's being used. So it could be something like just providing that infrastructure, installing it, and using that to get those metrics.
Okay, perfect. And then the other thing I noticed was I know at a community event recently, there was a suggestion about posting social media of trees and sort of tree health for some of those tree plantings. If there's any metrics related to social media posts about these events, that might be something to add in for some of your specific communications, just to show that there's some uptake in the community. And then the other comment that I had was around the waste. You may want to, in terms of your waste, the uptake for waste diversion, think about number of composters sold through the landfill. You're probably doing that already, but just to see if there's, if you're communicating that they're available, just to see if there's a increased use of those, and also rain barrels as well. That might be something you could tie into. But yeah, otherwise, those are the comments that I had. Any other comments? I'll just check one more time. If not, I think we can wrap this one up. So I guess
for the chair.
Oh, sure.
I just want to make sure that I'm capturing the comments that have been mentioned. I heard comments about education materials and the importance of waste diversion, the importance of audits, monitoring cycling lanes, some communications about tree planting, and some audits around the number of composters and rain barrels sold. There was the discussion about the municipal waste collection. I'm not sure how those comments want to be captured or if they want to be included. If somebody wants to maybe make a more formal statement to that effect, if there's something they want to add.
For that last one, maybe you could say just that we should be staff should be mindful of changing waste management strategies from the province, and ensuring that the ultimate plan is adaptable going forward.
Agreed.
Awesome, thank you so much. If you want to go to the vote then.
Okay, so I'll just read the text here. So it's that the report 2022-365 titled Community Climate Change or Climate Action Plan Progress be received, and that the comments from the Environmental Sustainability Policy Advisory Committee regarding the Brantford Community Climate Change Action Plan be included in staff's future report to the community of the whole operations. And you have the list there, correct? If anyone, if all those in favor? Oh. I think that's everyone and none opposed. So it's carried then, I believe. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda is the consent items for the minutes from the February 24, 2022 meeting. Can I have a mover and seconder to adopt the minutes?
I will mention it needs to be somebody who was present, so that would be Alicia and Mark.
Okay, I saw Alicia moved and seconded. All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Let's see, and none opposed. That's carried as well. Now on to resolutions. And I don't see any here. Notices of motion. Now, clerk, just wondering if this is a good time to ask whether we can have a discussion on re-establishing our subcommittees for SPAC.
It does sound like the subcommittees are coming. With the movement to hybrid meetings, subcommittees will be coming. I can't give you an exact timeline, but we certainly can look at for the next meeting, having those subcommittees have some action items to look forward to.
Yeah, and I think it's been some time just because of the pause on some of our meetings. I think it would be helpful maybe for the next meeting just to point out the active subcommittees that we have. I think there was one related to the Greener Awards, the Greener and also the Green Team. And I believe that's it. But if there's any others, just to let us know as well. And maybe we can just request an update. I believe one of them, the Greener Awards, we may not have all the same members as there was before, but it'd just be good to maybe have an update and discussion about that for the next meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. Okay.
Otherwise, I don't have any other resolutions or notices of motion. So the last item then is adjournment. So the meeting is now adjourned. And it's